The goodbye letter found in a U.S. military jacket. Grief does strange things to a person. It softens them in places they once thought unbreakable and hardens them in places where they once felt safe. For Emily Hayes, grief had settled into her life the way winter settles into old trees, slowly, silently, until the cold becomes part of who they are. 2 years had passed since her father, Sergeant Daniel Hayes of the United States Army, didn't return from his final deployment. 2 years of photos she couldn't look at, voicemail recordings she couldn't delete, and a wooden chest her mother kept closed because neither of them had the strength to open it. It was easier to pretend that his things were simply waiting for the day he'd walk in and ask why everything was covered in dust. But on the morning of his death anniversary, Emily woke with a heaviness she couldn't explain. It wasn't sadness exactly. It was something more like a pull, a quiet whisper urging her to face something she had avoided for too long. Her mother had already left for work. The house was still. Outside, soft sunlight filtered through the curtains, dust floating through the air like tiny memories refusing to settle. Emily sat at the breakfast table, hands wrapped around a mug of untouched coffee, mind drifting somewhere between past and present. Her eyes wandered across the room and stopped on it, the wooden chest. It looked so ordinary. Just a simple, worn-out box with a brass latch. But Emily knew it held explosions of memories she wasn't ready to touch. Memories shaped like uniforms, medals, dog tags, letters never finished, and a final goodbye she never received. Her heart pounded. She stared at the chest for a long time before whispering into the empty room, "Okay, I'm ready." But she wasn't. She crossed the room anyway, each step heavier than the last. Kneeling in front of the chest, she placed her hands on the lid. It felt cold, colder than she expected. With shaking fingers, she unlatched it and slowly lifted the top. The familiar creak felt like a wound reopening. Inside lay the life her father left behind. His medals glinted softly, catching the sunlight. His dog tags rested on top of a folded uniform, still crisp, still smelling faintly of military laundry soap. Beneath it all was his old field jacket, sun-faded and worn, carrying the scent of sand, sweat, and something warm that made her chest ache. Emily hesitated before touching it. It felt like touching him, and she wasn't ready for that. But grief doesn't wait for permission. It only waits for the perfect moment to break you open. She reached for the jacket. The fabric was rough beneath her fingers, stiff in places where desert wind had beaten it relentlessly. She lifted it gently, as if it might crumble. When she laid it across her lap, she ran her hand over the worn patches, the stitching, the places where time had softened the threads, but never the memories. Then her fingers brushed something stiff inside the inner pocket. She froze. A small, folded piece of paper. Her breath caught painfully in her throat. She slipped her fingers inside and pulled it out. The envelope was yellowed around the edges, softened with time. It looked old, fragile, like something meant to survive only until the right moment. She turned it over, and her heart cracked open. Her name was written on it. My Emily. Her father's handwriting. Her vision blurred instantly. A sob slipped from her lips before she even realized she was crying. Her hands shook violently. She cupped the envelope against her chest, breathing in small, broken gasps. It took her several minutes before she had the strength to open it. Inside was a letter, written in familiar, strong handwriting shaped by years of writing reports in the desert, notes in the barracks, and little messages he used to leave on the fridge for her. She unfolded it. Emily, it began. If you are reading this, it means life didn't let me come home. I'm sorry, kiddo. I tried. I want you to know that I tried every single day. Her breath shattered. The words blurred as tears streamed down her cheeks. She pressed the back of her hand against her trembling mouth to silence her sobs. His voice seemed to echo through the quiet room, alive in every stroke of ink. He wrote about the desert nights, colder than anyone imagined. About the sound of distant gunfire and the fear that crept into his bones, but never reached his voice. He wrote about the soldiers he led, young, brave, scared, and how he often showed them Emily's drawings to keep their spirits up. "I kept your drawings in this jacket," the letter said. "The stick figures of you and me, the one where you drew me with a cape and called me your hero. I looked at them whenever things got dark. You kept me going out there, even when I wanted to give up." Emily whimpered softly. She remembered those drawings, crayon lines, misshapen hearts, messy handwriting. She never imagined he'd carry them across continents, through war zones, through nights when survival wasn't guaranteed. "You were the bravest part of my life," he wrote. "Not the army, not the missions. You. You gave me strength far beyond anything a uniform ever could." Emily's tears dripped onto the page, smudging the ink slightly. She wiped them away gently, terrified of ruining the last words he left behind. He continued, apologizing for every birthday he missed, every school performance he couldn't attend, every milestone he wished he had been there for. "I wanted to be the kind of father who never missed anything," he wrote. "But life had other plans. I hope you know I was thinking of you every day." Emily cried harder, remembering the nights she sat on her bed waiting for his call, the countless times she fell asleep holding her phone, the mornings she woke up to missed messages written in desert time zones. Then the letter took a turn. "There is something I never told you," he wrote. "Something I planned for us, something I hoped would give you comfort even if I couldn't." Emily's heart pounded. Her father explained that before his final deployment, he bought a small piece of land outside their town, a secluded place near a river, surrounded by big trees and soft grass. "I imagined us building a small cabin there," he wrote, "just you and me, a place where life couldn't reach us, a place where you could breathe." Emily's eyes widened. She had never heard any of this. Her mother hadn't known. He must have kept it secret, saving it for a moment he never got. "I wanted us to watch sunsets there," he continued. "I wanted you to have a place where you could come when life felt too heavy, a place where I would always be close." At the bottom of the letter, he had drawn a small map, simple, rough, hand-sketched, but unmistakably real. "If life took me before I came home," the letter ended, "then promise me you'll go there someday. It's my last gift to you, a piece of my heart you can return to whenever you need." Emily pressed the letter to her chest and sobbed, messy, gasping, grief-filled sobs that spilled from every part of her soul. She didn't know how long she cried. The room seemed to hold her, the sunlight warming her shoulders like a father's hand. When she finally lifted her head, something inside her changed. She wiped her eyes, carefully folded the letter, grabbed her car keys, and left the house without a second thought. The drive took nearly an hour. She followed the roads drawn on the map, her heart thudding louder with each passing mile. The world looked softer than it had in years, fields stretching wide, the sky glowing with shades of gold and rose, the air warm and sweet. Eventually, the landscape shifted, and she found it. A clearing bathed in soft evening light. A quiet river with water shimmering like melted gold, tall trees leaning gently toward the sky, grass whispering in the wind, a silence so peaceful it felt holy. Emily stepped out of the car, her breath stolen by the beauty of it. This was his place. This was what he wanted for her, his last hope, his last love. She walked slowly toward the riverbank, the letter held tightly in her hand. The sunlight wrapped around her like an embrace. The breeze kissed her cheek as if carrying her father's touch. She stopped at the edge of the water. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "I found it, Dad." The river carried her words like a promise. The air seemed to shift, gentle, warm, wrapping her in a presence she couldn't see but could feel with every heartbeat. She sat down on the grass, legs trembling, heart overflowing. The sky slowly darkened as stars began to appear. The world felt quieter, softer, safer. And Emily understood something she hadn't been able to before. Her father didn't leave her with emptiness. He left her with a place where love could live forever, a place where she could always return to him, a place where grief wasn't a wound. It was a bridge. She placed the letter on her lap, rested her hands over it, and whispered through her tears, "I love you too." And under the vast American sky, by a river chosen with love, Emily Hayes finally began to heal. Subscribe now, join the Bright World English Academy family, and let's start your English learning journey together.